All right, y'all are live.
Oh, welcome in. It's good to be back on a Friday morning, 9:25, and Campo and Joe is back on the air, and mainly because we get to welcome our head coach back from what was a great vacation with the family. Coach, let's at least start there before we talk minicamp. You feeling good, you're looking good, and you had a great vacation.
Yeah, I had a chance to have a family reunion over in Dallas, which was fantastic. Got a chance to watch their OTAs and had a great visit with their players and staff. So it was a good trip, long one. Ready to be home, and
Yeah.
was excited to get out to minicamp with the Jags. And let's roll.
Yeah, you got to see a couple of practices. So we're going to spend a lot of time on the mini camp. But anyone who's watching us on the stream, totally appreciate you guys making time for us on a Friday morning. We'll be back doing it on Tuesday and Friday with a little Campo and Joe action. So we totally appreciate it. You want to jump in the chat, you can do it right here on the stream. You can go to X, wherever. But we appreciate it, that's for sure. And I tell you what, Coach, the amount of fans that were there for the open practice that was available, as soon as you pulled into the parking lot and I pulled in the parking lot, I was a little later than you. I know you know that, but the parking lot was packed, and there were 2,000. I would think 2,000 fans that were there. They are loving the idea of seeing this football team.
Yeah, no question. I mean, the enthusiasm of the city is fantastic. And the enthusiasm of the players is fantastic. Watching them work out. You know, it's great that I had a little bit of a comparison between the Cowboys and the Jags, watching them practice. I went up in the stands the second half of practice because I can see better up there.
Yeah.
And it was full. I think it holds 2,000, but I'll bet you with people standing, it was over 2,000.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt it. Now, we're going to get into these camps, but I feel like it is worth bringing up what you said. You got to see the Dallas Cowboys that you were once the head coach of. And one thing that you said to me yesterday when we were doing a show with Tom McManus was the speed of this Jaguar franchise. You at least got to compare it to another NFL team.
Yeah, I'm excited about that. I think the one thing that they have done is the thing I noticed, both of those teams have new head coaches.
Yeah.
Well, the energy level of the Cowboys and the energy level of the Jags, the speed of those two teams really stuck out to me. And some of it is, there's a lot of fast guys in the NFL, but you combine the speed with the energy, that's when things happen. And that's how you have to play in this game. And it's tough to do for an entire season. That's why you see some teams kind of fold at the end because they don't have that discipline and desire to carry it through 17 games. So, I'm excited about what I saw. I think the rosters, I think it's going to come down to the quarterbacks, in my opinion. I think the rosters are similar, to be perfectly honest with you.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, it's funny because if you do the Dallas and Duval comparison, you've got Dak Prescott with a lot of questions around him. He's making a lot of money. Like you said, brand new head coaches. But Dak, he's had a pretty strong record, okay? He versus Trevor, he's going to win in a landslide when it comes to the win-loss record. But both of these guys, they get second-guessed a bunch. And Trevor, we all know why, taking care of the football, basically producing a winner, and they haven't been able to follow up what was a great end to 2022. They just haven't been able to follow it up. And so now Trevor's got to feel a little bit of that pressure. So let's start there, at least your observations of Trevor coming out of this minicamp.
Well, first of all, the practice I saw, he did not have a great day. I'm a little concerned. But the thing that you got to, it was a little late on some throws. The defense made some outstanding. That's one of the things I really liked. There was a lot of contested footballs. But part of the problem you have, Joe, with a new staff and a new scheme, we were in a timing-based attack in Dallas with Troy Aikman. And it comes down to not only what the quarterback can do, but it's what the receivers do. Are they in the spots that they need to be when they get there? And a lot of the late throws are caused by a receiver not being exactly where he's supposed to be when he's supposed to be there. So that's something that is a work in progress. The thing I like about Trevor is, though, he's I think the last practice he kind of came back on and things kind of changed a little bit. He's going to be ready. I have no doubt that with a full training camp, the timing is going to be better. And I think we got some firepower, to be perfectly honest with you.
Yeah, I feel like the install has been really, really important for Liam Cohen to make sure that they understand what they're trying to do with each play call situationally. And even when we went back to, I want to say this was maybe Wednesday's practice, coach, and they did down and distance in the red zone, creating situations. It's 3rd and 10 at the 10. It's 3rd and 7 at the 7. And he said, I want to get these plays off. I want to make sure that everybody understands where they need to be. We may not have a successful play because the defense did pretty much win that day, but we need to get in a situation where boom, 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 we are at the line of scrimmage ready to make something happen.
The thing I loved about that particular practice was he also created a competitive situation between the two units because, I think there were 9 plays where one team wins and the other team loses on that day. So again, the red zone, it's very tough to throw down there. If you can't run the ball, I say it 100 times. If you can't run the ball inside the 20, you're not going to win. If I'm a defensive coach, we were somewhat bend but don't break in Dallas over the years because we knew that if they got in the red zone, we're going to force a field goal at the most because if they can't run it, they can't score down there. So I love the competitiveness, and I think that what Liam has done is right. Just make sure that everybody understands what we're trying to get accomplished with this scheme. And then when we go to training camp, we got to zero in, and guys have got to make sure that if they're supposed to run a 10-step route, they're running a 10-step route, and they're getting where they're supposed to get. And so those combinations, I think you'll learn that in minicamp and OTAs, and there's a lot thrown at them. Now you just redo the whole thing when you start training camp.
Yeah, and let's not sugarcoat this, okay? This was a bad football team on both sides of the ball. They were in the teens on the scoreboard at the end of every 4 quarters that they played. That's what they averaged, less than 19 points a game. They gave up over 26 points a game. And so we're talking about a massive, massive overhaul that has to take place on both sides of the ball. And then the other challenge here is that if you go down the line, and we're being honest, Coach, there are basically 3/4, and we'll probably do this exercise a little bit more maybe next week, but there's about 2/3 to 3/4, let's just say, that are the same pieces on offense and defense. Would you agree with that? And and so the coaches and whatever that new infusion of talent, along with those old guard guys, it's got to pay off.
Yeah, no question about it. Again, I think that they did a good job in the draft, just watching the guys move around, in practice. But I think that, the Mason Smiths and the tackles, Little and Harrison, those guys have got to come through because they made the decision that those guys are going to be players for them. And again, I don't think they stood pat like they did a year ago, but there are some positions they felt like we can get these guys to play better. And that's going to be important between now and opening up in September.
Yeah. And so you have new offense, new defense. Anthony Campanile on that side of the ball is trying to infuse a little life into this defense, get guys flying around. And I've talked to a few guys, Emmanuel Ogba and Jack Kaiser, a couple conversations that I had the last couple of days, and they love that guy. They swear by that guy. You probably had plenty of guys that played their ass off for you because they knew how important it was to you. And I get the feeling you were Coach Camps. I get the feeling this Coach Camps has that same type of personality.
Well, I think I think he and I are very similar, to be perfectly honest with you. Yeah. The thing I love about him is that when you watch him in individual, he's rolling. I mean, he works with him. He'll jump into a position meeting, a position individual period, and he's fired up and he's going. Now, when he gets into the team, he's what you have to be. You have to be a little bit more controlled. You have to be, because that's the way you want your team to play. You want your team to be fired up, but you want to be uncontrolled as far as how they approach the game. He's got, I guarantee you, the players are getting the feeling that this guy is excitable. He loves the game. It's all about energy. We're going to show people that we're going to show up and we're going to play. I'm more excited about them than I am the offense, but I think that's natural because I was a defensive coach.
Yeah, but just think about it. And these are easy things to ask for, really a lot harder to get the job done. But all we're asking for, a few more stops on defense, on third down. Don't give up the big plays, because they basically were toast on the back end far too often. Bad safety play. We know that Ronald Darby was a major liability. So there wasn't a whole hell of a lot of pass rush. So the quarterback had plenty of time. But if you could just cut 4 points off of your overall average that you're giving up, and then gain a field goal or more, which is what we want, that's basic. If you do 4 on each side, that's an 8-point swing, Coach.
Absolutely. And really, not to get away from the defense, that when I watched Green Bay, okay, the one thing that stuck out to me with Campanile's defense was they were very disciplined. There were not very few mental mistakes. Mm-hmm. The last 3 years that I've watched the Jaguars in the secondary, especially, there have been a ton of mental errors. Yeah. And that's when you get the big plays. It's the same thing with the front. If you see a long run, some of it's the running back, but a lot of it is somebody wasn't in the right spot. Mm-hmm. The one thing that I believe this defense is going to improve in are those things, because I think this coaching staff is very detail-oriented from what I can see. That, to me, is going to be the difference. And when you say those guys that we were talking about that have to play better next year, mm-hmm. part of it is that if we have guys in the right spots and there's not a lot of mistakes, that improves the defense, in my opinion, from day one. And so, I'm hopeful from that standpoint. And then offensively, you added a little firepower to it. So hopefully that's going to make the difference on the other side of the ball. And Trevor is the key to that, situation. He's got to. It's time. He has the answers. Let's get the thing done. That's it.
Yeah, he said it. You're hoping for it. That's for sure. Robert chimes in. You guys can jump in on the chat, but he said, I personally think all 3 interior spots are going to new guys, and I'm just guessing that he is talking about the offensive side there, and right. And certainly Ezra Cleveland's job is up for grabs. Ezra is running with the ones right now. We've talked about Anton Harrison. Even though he's not one of the interior 3 guys, there's a rotation that's taking place with Chuma Adoga on that outside, and that's just what's happening. And if we talk about the fact that Robert Hainsey is coming in as a brand new center that knows this offense, he's got to come through. And we need to see if anybody, and it may not be Wyatt Milam because he was a little deeper on the depth chart, at least as far as practice was concerned, Coach. But yeah, they need to find a physical left guard to go along with Hainsey, and then obviously they're putting McCary in on that right side. I had a good conversation with him, Coach, earlier in the week, and he's not the biggest cat, but he's a technician, and he's blocked for some good offenses. So we'll see how it goes.
Well, that's going to be the interesting thing. I think if you asked me, what did you see from the defensive backs? I can give you a pretty good evaluation. Same right. thing with the linebackers as far as their drops and all that. I can tell you the receivers, they look like they can do certain things. The offensive line, that's a work in progress. We won't know a thing about the offensive line until we get a little bit more into training camp, because without pads, the defensive line is going to look better. There's no question about it. You can't anchor and do the things that you have to do until you put the pads on. Mm-hmm. So you're looking at footwork. You're looking at ability to understand what we're trying to do on offense. Liam said yesterday, which was interesting to me, which is true, they've done mostly zone runs in this training camp because you get injuries without the pads on if you run the gap plays. Well, you're going to see a lot more gap offense when you get to training camp. And that's where, to me, the diversity of the running game is going to be a major factor. So I'm looking forward to, you just listen. The offensive line is all about footwork, getting where they need to be. The same thing we're talking about. We're going to see the physicalness when they line up in training camp and they put those pads on.
Yeah, Yahtzee to that, Coach. And we'll talk about this a bunch more on XL Primetime, because you know exactly what you're talking about when it comes to the difference between zone running and basically the gap blocking that they want to put in. And it's entirely different than what they had here before. And so, yeah, I think that has to happen. And then obviously, if you can get to a point where you've got physical play at the line of scrimmage and just a little lane here or there for these guys to be able to cut loose on some good runs. And
and also, go ahead, Joe. I'm sorry.
No, but both you and I have preached. The run game's got to be there. Okay, play action's got to be there. One of our guys right here, Scotty, simply not having the most predictable offense in football is going to tremendously help us this season. Agree.
Yeah, I agree with that. And along with the offensive line, the biggest problems we've had is being able to sustain drives. Yeah. You look at it overall, we haven't been really good, on third down, which is important. We haven't been really good defensively on third down, which is important. That's sustaining drives on both offensively and defensively. But you can't run zone plays when it's third down and 2. You got to be able to run gap plays and just attack the line of scrimmage. And that's where, to me, if they get that going, that's going to be the difference, because I think we have some running backs that can run the gap offense and just attack the line of scrimmage. With Bigsby, very physical runner. I think Tootin's a physical runner. The combination of those two guys, and then Etienne, a little bit more perimeter, but he can still run the inside run as well. They need to improve the ability to sustain drives with the ability to run the football and get positive yardage.
And one number that jumps out to me, just going back to that predictability part that one of our viewers was saying, is that they ran the ball between the tackles basically 73% of their run plays. And you just mentioned Etienne we know who he is. He's a little more upright. He's very quick, very good, but he hasn't necessarily been able to protect the football enough or be physical enough to go between the tackles. He can do it. He just can't do it all the time.
Right.
And boom, 73% of the time, Coach, that's predictable as hell.
Yeah, pretty predictable. Absolutely.
So it drives you crazy when you think about that. All right, so throw it up here if you don't mind. Jacob is running our show, and the offensive line. Let's at least put the when you take a look at it right now, this is what you've got. And we mentioned Walker and Anton, Coach, and both of those guys, and Ezra for that matter. And you can throw, they listed a couple of other guys that are in there. Robert Hainsey's going to be the center. We pretty much know that. Patrick McCary is definitely plugged in at right guard. But that left guard position, did you get anything out of what you saw the few times that you were out there between vacation that would tell you who might be able to win that job?
Yeah, I think it's going to be the young guy. I think it's going to be Milam when it's all said and done. I think that, Ezra is a weak point, in my opinion, especially in the gap runs. That's where you're going to see the bigger, stronger, physical guy that's going to come on in that position. Again, it's hard with that offensive line at this point right now. I think the most telling thing of all, to me, is Anton Harrison.
Okay.
Because I'm telling you, he better get his stuff going, because I've heard the coaches say he can really do it when he wants to. Well, that's not intangibly rich. And I know Adoga, I was with him at USC. I know he's intangibly rich. And that's why they've got that competition going. And I think the competition in training camp is going to be fierce, in my opinion. And that's going to be the key to that thing. I think the new guys, Hainsey and McCary, they're going to get the job by default, in my opinion. But the Ezra Cleveland thing and the Antoine Harrison thing and the Walker Little thing is all about competition, in my mind.
All right. Now, I know we're going to see, as you described, a more telling training camp type of when they go from zone to gap blocking, we're going to see a hell of a lot more. But Fred Johnson didn't have a particularly good camp. And I think Anton is better. He's better than Udoka. I'm going to say, like,
Right.
I think considerably better, but you've got to get it out of him.
Correct. You're right. Absolutely. And that's why that's where the competition comes in. You don't put a guy out there and alternate him if you're completely happy with what's going on. So to me, that's the telling position right there.
One of our guys, Duval, just put it up there. Love hearing coaches' takes. No question about it. He's fired up just as like the rest of Duval is fired up. And then another one is Liam is challenging Anton. And I posted that on X, and there's no question about it. He I think in a perfect way called him out. He didn't call him out 100%. He just said he can go when he wants to go. He is now going to his third year. He was a first-round draft pick. He said it. He set the table for, hey, this is your turn, your time, pal. You need to go out there. And if you don't win this job, we are going to get somebody else, period.
Right. And I think that's the approach he's taken at every position, to be perfectly honest with you. And I think that's the way it should be. I mean, this is not little league football here. This is professional football. You're paid to do a job. I hear Leon all the time, Leon Cersei talking about that. Hey, it's time. He didn't come here to be average. You come here to be the best you can be. And if you don't have that get up and go every time you walk out on the field, you're not going to be the best you can be.
Yeah. So the offensive line, I think we can all agree, coming out of minicamp, still a big question mark. Nobody quite knows. Let's get to the defensive line a little bit here, because another big question mark is whether or not they can create pressure off the edge. By the way, Coach, Yoda put these up. I retrieved these from AI. So this is artificial intelligence that we are working with closely here. All right, but you've got Josh Hines Allen, Devon Hamilton, Eric Armstead, and Trayvon Walker. We're basically going to assume that Devon Hamilton is going to keep that job. There are plenty of other guys that we've been looking at in the short time that we've been allowed to be out there. Tyler Lacey is playing inside a bunch. He's a bigger cat now. We're going to find out whether he can do something. Jordan Jefferson possibly pushing Devon Hamilton just off the nose of the center. Mason Smith, I still say, a bit of a big belly and a big bubble, but he needs to be growing into maturity-wise, growing into a professional football player that can go out there. And he is a big human being, Coach. You know that as well as I do. So let's at least start there with some of the observations that you had from the defensive line.
Well, first of all, just the limited I've seen in camp, I'm really excited about training camp because that's where you really see it. But I think Armstead inside, that's where he needs to be. There is no doubt in my mind. I just think his length alone makes it more difficult for the quarterback. And he's still got some stuff left in there. The key is going to be how he plays against the run. That's going to be where we see the real thing, because I think he's going to give us a better pass rush. There's no doubt about it. Mm-hmm. If Devon Hamilton does what he did when he first got there, before he had that illness or whatever he had, I think you got a pretty good player there. And so I'm okay with him. The guy I'm the most interested in is little bit like Harrison, is Mason Smith, because I'm a fan of Mason Smith as far as his ability level is concerned. I think he can be a factor, and a big factor, if he's 100% mentally into what's going on. And I'm counting on this coaching staff getting the best out of those guys. So to me, those interior guys, it's going to be a little bit of a battle in there. They brought in a lot. Listen, now, they didn't stand pat with much, but that's one thing they did stand pat with, is moving Armstead in, going with those guys. They took free agent guys, undrafted guys to firm it up a little bit as far as the competition is concerned, but they're counting on those guys. Now, as far as the outside guys, they just need to play better. Walker and Allen both have the ability to be outstanding players. They just need to play better. That's all. And then Agba is a real, to me, one of the best things they did, because, and Smoot, to be honest with you, because I think you got a steady guy there in Smoot. You know what you're getting. You're going to get every play, and
Yeah.
he's a 3-sack, 4-sack guy that can play the run. So I think they've improved there with Agba, especially because I think he could be a starter if somebody got hurt at edge, or if they want to move somebody in to get more pass rush. He can do the job outside. He's a 6-sack guy. So the combination of those guys has to be, and that's the key, is having a good rotation that they can get guys in there and play.
All right, we need to finish up with Travis Hunter on both sides of the ball, which is what we were treated to. But go back to Agba, because I love the conversation that I had with him. Born in Nigeria, comes over here humble, understands what it takes. Hard work gets you in a position to be a star, and he puts in the work. But so if you see him on the outside, that's when you're kicking Trayvon or somebody inside to try and create a little more pass pressure.
Or you just have something happen,
Right. Okay.
God forbid. But I think the guy is a better than average starter.
Yeah.
That's how I look at him. But we haven't done the best we did defensively was when Arden Key was here, in my opinion, because he pressed those guys that from behind. He thinks he created Duval.
He built the Buckman. Let's not forget that.
But in all honesty, he was good enough to compete. And when he did get in there, he did some good things. That's what I see with Agba. I think he gives you that ability. You know what you're going to get from him. And Smoot the same way. You know what you're going to get from him, and you know that you're going to get everything they got. And then, I think that helps the football team a great deal.
All right, so let's finish on Travis Hunter, because we primarily saw him with every OTA and the mini camp on offense. And then we did see him move from offense to defense. And we know that Travis Hunter, right there with Brian Thomas Jr. and De'Ami Brown, are going to be the core. If this team's going to be successful, if Trevor's going to get back to where he's hitting a lot of big plays, getting guys in the end zone and not turning the ball over, it's going to be BTJ first and foremost, Travis Hunter. And I do like De'Ami Brown a lot. I like the way they're starting to work all those three guys with different responsibilities, different route trees, so on and so forth. But we saw Travis Hunter on both sides of the ball. Even yesterday was the first time we saw him on both sides of the ball in one practice. So anyway, there's just so much to look forward to there.
Yeah, I'm excited about Travis. I mean, listen, he's a beast on defense. He can go out there and play tomorrow, as long as he knows what cover 2 is, or what number cover 4 is, and what cover 3 is. Man to man, cover 1. If he knows what he's supposed to do, he can go out there and do it. He's proven that. And yesterday was the first time he's gone both ways, a little bit in practice. So they're going to ramp that up a little bit. Now, so to me, right now, I would say he's a better defensive player than he is an offensive player. But he has to be the offensive player that to get reps, to get the timing down, because he can be a good offensive player too, a really good offensive player. I think that's a work in progress. But I'll tell you what, if we started him at corner tomorrow, we'd be real excited about what's going on over there from what I've seen from him. The guy's an outstanding athlete. He's smart. He doesn't make mistakes, and he's very competitive. He loves the game. So I'm excited about what he brings to the table. De'Ami Brown, listen, if you look at film of what he did in the playoffs last year at Washington, you're going to say this guy is an upgrade from what we've had, whether he's the second receiver or the third receiver or whatever he is. He is definitely an upgrade, and I like him a lot. We got some speed over there now with Brian Thomas, De'Ami, and our guy Travis Hunter.
Yeah, there's no question that there's going to be opportunities for all these guys to hit the stat sheet, find the end zone, and do a lot of things. It really will be at the feet of Trevor Lawrence to use. Think about how De'Ami Brown got off last year, Coach. It was because Jaden Daniels was a maniac under center or in the shotgun, and he could take off and improvise whenever he needed to. He was a nightmare for defenses. And so then Diami, Terry McLaurin, whoever it was, they broke off big plays because that defense had to respect what Jaden Daniels represented with his feet. Trevor, I'm just seeing this. Just wrap this up, Coach. I'm seeing him move more out of the pocket this year than I think I've seen him before, and I know that Liam Cohen's going to encourage the hell out of that. That's going to open up a lot of things.
I think that's something he can do, and I think you have to utilize, in this day and age, the way the defenses, how much speed they have and how aggressive they are attacking the passing game. I believe you really have. There's no more just drop back passers. There's got to be guys that can get on the move and make something happen. The one thing you know about Trevor, when he does get on the move, he can throw the ball while he's moving.
Yeah.
There's no the technique, the ability to get the football going. He's got all of that. So I think he's got to use his feet a little bit more, and I think that's something that he will do. He's just got to be smart about it and get down when he has to get down.
You better believe it. You better believe it. All right, listen, we got down this morning, and we appreciate all those that jumped on the stream that were watching with us. We'll be back every Friday at either 9:25 or 10:10. We always want to make sure if Duval Rundown is on that we'll drop back a little bit, but they're off through the summertime. But we will be here every Friday and every Tuesday with Campo and Joe. Coach, we will see you on XL Primetime.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it.
All right, Yoda, good job as always, Jacob. We appreciate you.
Thanks,
and
Jacob.
all y'all in Duval for checking out Campo and Joe.
Duval.